Alrighty, so welcome back to the Zero Camber podcast. I'm your host, Whoop. That
I'm
is your
drinking
host, Mike,
kombucha.
and he's got no sponsors. We're not sponsored. Nobody's that brave.
No, if you want to be sponsored, if Health Aid Kombucha, if you want to sponsor us, please, I could use this because I spend way too much money, and hopefully I can bring value to the brand. Because, yeah, man,
So we just talked about in the last episode
which
how
was like 10 minutes ago for everybody.
yeah,
We
10
do
minutes
these
ago,
doubles.
10,
That's
10
why I'm
minutes
still
ago.
wearing a cutoff.
So we talked about how kind of like people have interacted with the community, how car
Yeah,
communities changed a little bit, and car culture kind of like as a whole, or like a car culture state of the union kind of in the way
yeah,
for like the individuals. But
yeah.
we
For
want
like
to
the
talk,
people and how they're interacting out socially and acting.
yeah, like the social
Yeah,
media and how like just most normal folk who are interested in cars are
yeah,
kind of a part of the community. But what we
yeah,
want to talk about now in this episode is the spicier bits that are a little bit deeper, a little bit chewier down inside here.
yeah,
Whereas like a little bit more deeper in the funnel, as we were, using it as our
yeah.
analogy last episode.
The way that I called it was what we dislike about the automotive industry. So last, it's like, what do we dislike about the car community, right? Like, what is it about the car community right now that sort of gets under our skin? And the community obviously being right, it's the entirety of the people that surround the automotive industry.
Yes,
The automotive industry obviously operates under a very different set of forces
100%.
because the car community is enthusiasts,
Yes,
right? It's people who like cars or maybe are enthusiast adjacent, think some cars are kind of cool. Maybe they read a motor trend
and
or
a
a
lot
car
of
driver
people
article here or there.
within the industry are enthusiasts, but not all of the enthusiasts are a part of the industry, and that's what creates the dichotomy of difference here.
I
That
would say okay, how would I say this? I would most of the people that I have worked with in my career. So I think we've addressed it before, right? But
Mhm.
for people that don't know, you and I have both been in the industry
Yes,
for a decade or more. Um, I have been in the OEM, right? So the actual manufacturer side of the industry
yep,
since 2014, so a decade, right? I've worked for Ford. I've worked for GM. I did a short stint at Chrysler. I worked for Continental, and I work for a tire manufacturer right now. I'm not going to name that. You could probably fucking figure it out if you look at my stuff. So I've worked in the OEM side of things, and when I worked at Continental, what did I do? I designed tires for OEMs.
yeah,
I was an account manager for Tesla. So I was working with an OEM. I have worked with every, other than Rivian and Lucid, right? Because those are two brand new guys, let's be honest, in the terms of the automotive. I've
yeah,
worked with every major American OEM. This is something that I've lived and breathed for a long, long time.
yep,
And I would say there are car appreciators throughout the whole industry. But car enthusiasts, very tiny segment.
yes,
Most people who work in the automotive industry are engineering enthusiasts, or they like having a job, or, right, the thing that you'll kind of encounter the most is these are people who like working in a product segment where you actually get to see the product
yep.
at the end of the day and you get to interact with it. And because cars are a major part of people's lives, they
Oh,
always
100%.
are.
Yeah, and especially
Even
the way the world is structured, or at least the American world, right?
yeah,
Like we are very car reliant, and so like there's no
yeah.
escaping it. And the automotive industry, to be fair, is a very large, powerful force within the American
It's
economy.
one of the biggest American economic sectors is the
Yes,
automotive industry.
if not
Absolutely.
the biggest.
Probably logistics
Yeah,
and maybe like food
I'm sure,
processing is probably bigger, but
but yeah, I mean, like
yeah.
there's a lot that is encompassed within the automotive industry as a grander whole.
Well, and you walk all the way down through the supply chain, right? Like there's a lot. Like people don't think about this, right? DuPont, DuPont Chemicals.
Yep.
Major, like one of their bigger sectors is automotive. People
Yep.
don't think about that necessarily, right? But if you're in the automotive sector and you work with plastics or rubbers, you know DuPont.
Yep.
Absolutely. PPG, painting,
Yep.
massive player. They're a big player in the automotive industry too, because they're one of the main guys that actually manage. They're one of the main companies that manages paints, and paints are used all over automotive.
Yeah. I mean, even
Um,
individual components, whole cars. I mean,
yeah,
the
yeah,
stuff that makes cars usually gets some kind of paint on it. So
yeah.
like, yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
very layered. Uh,
absolutely. There's massive sectors. And then on the other side of this, you said car enthusiasts, right? Car
yeah,
enthusiasts they're not always in the industry. I would actually say a lot of car enthusiasts aren't in the industry.
no, for sure. Well, and
Um,
I think the biggest point at which you do find car enthusiasts in the industry has been more on like the end of the industry that I've always been on, right? So like
the
I've been
mechanic side.
right. So like as a mechanic and like being in the parts game and things like that. I mean like I don't know how much I've talked about it, but so like as growing up, like my dad actually like ran a shop specifically like for Hondas. Like he did other things, but Hondas was like the bread and butter. That's what I grew up with. That's what I grew up around. Um, and then as I got older, I inevitably kind of just fell down the well into cars, and so I've spent years in parts. I spent years managing shops, running shops, working in performance shop environments, general repair shop environments, dealing with parts sales like on the aftermarket end, like all the way up through like legit some level of logistics and inventory, and then also coming down to like just the actual like hands-on uh process for actually selling parts, dealing with the sales, dealing with the back end, with my business and
Yeah.
dealing with that, and then now even expanding into to other areas of that and things that we've talked about expanding into like in the future. And then where I've ended up so far is in the testing field for the last few years, where I've done a lot of pre-production test driving, things like that nature, and now where I am doing brake testing. And so yeah, like there's a lot of different areas of the industry, and like even though like our industries, current industries, right? Like there's some overlap there. Like you get testing done.
Yeah.
Like I mean, my facility even does sometimes some tire testing, and so. But like I've seen like in the shop environment, like a lot of people who have an interest in cars or who are enthusiasts, because they like cars, they like wrenching on cars, they like working
Yep.
on them. They will actually kind of like go and become mechanics. It's pretty common. A lot of mechanics generally are into cars to some degree because, to be
Yeah.
honest, if you're going to suffer
You
through
you
wrenching on a car, you kind of got
kind of
to
have
like it
to.
a little bit. So
It's
it
not
makes
as if
sense.
wrenching is a lucrative, cushy field.
No, I mean the wrenching side of things, like even in like a performance environment or like a resto environment, like like some shops will make good money doing that. But you're not living a life of luxury. If you're
No,
a,
not
a
outside of like maybe some very like
very
niche.
very niche stuff, definitely does perform better. People working with exotics are going to make more money,
Yeah.
of course, naturally.
I'm
People
sure
working diesels,
Shelby does quite well for himself, or
yeah,
did quite well for himself. I don't know. Is the
exactly.
dude still alive? I don't know.
No, I believe he passed.
I thought
Um,
so too. Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of things that are, there's a lot of different areas where you have people kind of coming into it, and like, obviously, like, you have to have some level of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
That's to varying degrees for most people. But the long and short of it is the fact that you have enthusiasts in the scene or in the industry to some degree, but enthusiasts very much so. Kind of think they are a lot bigger of a force in
Yes.
the industry than they are, and
And
they are not.
that's yeah, it was a big thing we talked about last time. But the way that I kind of wanted to address it here was to sort of drive home what it is that the auto industry actually focuses on. I think it should be apparent to anybody who actually pays attention.
Yes.
But I'm not so convinced that it is. And so probably the first thing that I wanted to sort of mention, right, with the like I kind of have problems with the way that the current auto industry is focusing is how it seems like the auto industry has taken on this feeling of hype culture that you get out of social media.
Yep.
I heard it mentioned on a podcast recently, and it like one of the examples that they used was Ford announcing this like Model T moment. And what it actually was they were like, yeah, we're going to make a $30,000 electric pickup. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing in every single way. And we're going to do this by having this tree, the tree manufacturing, basically, where they're like, hey, we're going to have one line, then we're going to split it off into 3 lines. And it's like, okay, why am I hearing about this 3 years out?
Yeah.
2 years out. What does this solve materially for me and my family?
No.
And they do this all the time, right? Manufacturers do this all the time. Where the ZR1X, right? We talked about that early on. Technically impressive.
Yeah.
I think we actually titled the episode the coolest car we'd never buy, or the most impressive car we'd still never buy.
Yeah. Something along those lines.
Yeah. And it's because it's this big hype moment that they're pushing that doesn't actually solve anything, because enthusiasts generate buzz.
Right.
And
enthusiasts don't realize, not to cut you off there.
No, please do. Go ahead.
But the enthusiast does not realize that they, more often than not, are just free marketing mouthpieces. They walk around and advertise for free all goddamn day. Yeah, I know you've heard, your dad and your uncle argue, between Ford and Chevy, right? Like, fucking this is a Ford household, this is a Chevy household. We only buy Chevys because, Grandpa worked at GM and we will only do this. That kind of guy who's like got the Camaro in the driveway and only buys a Sierra and only hypes up that, doesn't realize, like, I've had so many people that I've come across that are like, their family has kind of pushed them into only buying one make, and then they go and get in something else. And they're like, well, I can't believe this car is $10,000 cheaper than my last one, and it's so much nicer, because they actually just never even exposed themselves to something else. But so these people are so ingrained in pitching for the brand, like they are a great marketing tool to use, because what's better than free, right? Everybody loves something that's free. And so if you can just put something out there and everybody on the street who's like, oh, I like Corvettes, I'm a Chevy guy, I like this, this is so impressive, this is better than the GTD, I got to talk about this. And they get on Facebook, they get on TikTok, they get on Twitter, they get on Instagram, they get on all these places, and they start yapping about it. They start sharing the pictures. They quote tweet this. Oh, hey, look at this. Wow, this is crazy. Oh, they published the time. And so now for weeks on end, they're just talking about Chevy. And it's slipping into your timeline all over the place.
Yep.
And now you don't realize it, but you've had Chevy mentioned on your timeline by 35 different people a couple hundred times that week.
And now you're thinking about Chevy. But, and this is the thing that I struggle with about this, is it's gotten so old.
Yes.
Right? Because now you're talking about stuff that's years out 90% of the time. It doesn't actually solve anything. It sounds cool. It might get you excited, and then it shows up on the dealer lot or it shows up on the configurator, and you're like, that thing is way outside of my budget.
Yep.
And one of the things we talked about,
solving a tangible issue, like you stated.
And like one of the things we talked about in an earlier episode was how these cars are, I want to make sure I say this succinctly, mostly because I want it to be easy to clip, but I also,
we need our clout too, damn it.
I know. I think the way that I want to word this is, these cars, they get exciting, they come out, and like we talked about this on an earlier episode, that the average transaction price of cars keeps going up and up and up, and the automakers are looking at this and they're using it as an excuse to kind of push prices up and up and up. And I don't think that's the whole story, to be clear. I'll go more in depth on that, but they're pushing the prices up and up and up. But the one thing that we see with that is that while the average transaction price is going up, so is the average age of a buyer.
Yeah.
And what we're just seeing is that young people just aren't buying anything. They're just not buying the cars.
Yeah.
It's the dude who's in his 50s and 60s that can afford the $60,000 F-150, that has the equity in his house, that has the equity in his old truck, that holds value for stupid reasons, that's just trading it in and buying the new one and buying the new one and buying the new one and buying the new one, and he can just continue pushing the payment up and up and up and up, and he's fine with that. It's only another $20. He has the disposable income. It's fine. He's got the disposable income.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I don't have the disposable income. I make really good money. I still don't have the disposable income.
Yeah.
Because I had to buy a house in 2024. You know what it's like buying a house in 2020-4?
I'm glad I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, it sucks. My mortgage is $2,200 and I live in a small town. You know?
Yeah.
And it's
and I mean, and like we said, like,
and they think they can just out hype it. They think they can just keep hyping and hyping and hyping, all the while everything's getting more and more expensive.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to stay out front of a real issue here, and you know that might work when you know you're Kanye and you want to jump a bunch of bullshit ass crazy insane tweets out on the timeline to get people talking about you before you drop an album. But when you're Ford and you're trying to drop,
or like let's put Rivian on that list too, because they did this with the R1, the R2, and the R3X.
Yeah, because
let's put
Scout.
Who's Scout? Yeah, let's put Scout on there. They put the Terragraph. They're like, oh, we're gonna have these cool looking $70,000.
Even
that's 3 years out.
Yeah, even Slate, like Slate's not coming out tomorrow. None of the ZR1X, like like that.
Can I go get it on a dealer lot right now?
Yeah.
You told me the time. Can I go buy it right now? No, shut up. Yeah. I don't care.
Like, you should not, nothing should be being announced, talked about. And like, you should be able to buy it within 90 days. Apple does not tell you that they're dropping the iPhone 16 or iPhone 17 or whatever the next one is. And when they talk about it at their press event, it is within 90 days, it's on a shelf. And they talk about it to generate the buzz after they're like, we have enough units, we can start shipping, start allocating this. Everything's already in motion.
Well, and everybody knows every September, Apple's going to launch something. Or they're going to announce something and then it's going to be purchasable. Yeah. I almost didn't buy my new MacBook because I was waiting for the M4s. But I needed something. Granted, I didn't end up going on that vacation because I got sick, but regardless, I thought I needed something, Yeah.
Well, and like we've talked, right? Like, I'm going to be upgrading here soon, and I'm glad that I've kind of been like, all right, pushing that back, because I guarantee in another month or so, they're probably going to talk about the next generation chips or the next generation this, and it's probably going to be more worthwhile for me to wait.
Or the Switch 2, right? They announced the Switch 2. They announced, like, here's what it is, here's what it's going to be, right? We're not teasing it anymore. This is the numbers.
Yes.
And then it was like, you can get it in 2 months.
Yeah.
Here's your pre-orders.
And like, if Apple came out and gave you a whole presentation talking about how amazing the next iPhone's going to be, how amazing the next MacBook's going to be, and then said, yeah, great, it's coming 2027, you would quote tweet that so fast with, are you serious? Like, why'd you even talk about it? Why'd you even waste my time? What the hell did I watch 40 minutes of your presentation for?
Yeah.
You would lose your mind. But somehow the automotive industry gets away with it. And it's because enthusiasts start yapping about it. And they start talking about it. And then for now, the next 6 months or the next year until, the next platform drops, right? They're going to talk about it probably every week like clockwork,
Here's my story on this. Remember when back in like 2014, let's say 2016, there was rumors and they put out little details that there was going to be a rear-wheel drive Continental, Ford Lincoln Continental.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, it
still
might be
waiting
on the
on
Mustang platform. It's not happening.
I wish.
It might be on the Mustang platform. And it might be rear-wheel, and it's going to be four-door sedan. We might get the EcoBoost motor.
Still
right?
Get the four-door Mustang rumor's been a thing for 30 years.
Right, but so this was in talks, right?
Yep.
There was stuff. There were things happening behind the scenes. I'm not going to talk too much, right? But there were things happening behind the scenes because I was there at the time. I think I can say this. I hope I can. Don't get me fired. But stuff was happening. Talks were happening. I'm not saying it was going to happen, but talks were happening. There was stuff. Then they took, right, basically what was I think the Fusion, right, from China.
Yep.
They made it a little longer. They kept it a front-wheel drive platform. and they just dropped the Continental. And it was like there's, all this talk about it, like a Continental down the line that's going to be rear-wheel drive, four doors. People were getting excited for that, and then they just dropped something. And then they just dropped this front-wheel drive when people were like, this isn't what, like, because there was not clear communication. It was like, this is not what was promised, so this is what Ford's doing. It completely killed interest in the Continental. Continental sold like shit, and all the talk stopped.
Yep, because that sold like crap, so we're not gonna spend money on that IP. It's a waste of time.
And so this is the problem with dropping all this crap and hyping everything and all this stuff, because if you build up too much and then you don't quite deliver on it, because first of all, they should never have just dropped the Continental as it was anyway, but like when you get this happening, this hype culture, and then it doesn't live up to what you're stating, it's going to kill it. It's going to kill it completely.
Yeah, 100%.
And every company is doing it wrong, I swear, except... this is a weird thing, except for Stellantis.
Yeah,
so the new Jeep Cherokee's coming out, right?
Yeah.
New Jeep Cherokee. First of all, I think it looks good. Go to hell if you think I'm wrong.
No, I agree. I think it looks good.
It looks nice. It is what a Jeep Cherokee, and now it's crazy overpriced, but that is a legal issue. That is an EU issue. That is a CARB issue, right? That is what we'll call it on that. But it looks really nice. And they announced it. They showed the pictures. They're like, this is the Jeep Cherokee. These are the details available next year. That's doing it right. Little more time than I would like, but that's doing it right.
Yeah.
It'll be here next year.
Well, and I mean, like, they've already basically kind of even done like the same thing, right? So like when they announced the new Charger, right?
Yeah.
That got announced, and within...
It was announced that it was basically here.
Yeah, and then within 6 to 8 months... you were able to order one of the EV ones, and now we were like pretty soon here, like the 6-pack, high perform or high output,
we're doing it. Boom,
Hurricane ones are about to hit. So like, those have rolled out relatively quickly. It feels like a really long time to me because I've been seeing them for so long, but the, that
things don't happen fast in car space.
No.
They don't happen fast.
No, people don't realize this, like the stuff, and like I could say, well, I can't say specifics. But I can say that like the Ford has tested stuff to 27, 28. There's pre-production vehicles like test driving around that are nowhere near touching your lot.
No.
Like they are, and to be fair, every manufacturer does this, and they're all doing this for the purpose of actually selling you a better product, because they don't want you to buy something that's an absolute pile of shit, because if you do, they know you're going to complain about it, and that hurts a lot more than you think. Than
word of mouth complaints within automotive are huge. Like that one bad experience you had can kill a brand for dozens of people.
Oh, 100%. Like, yeah, I mean, like, and I think a great example here, right, is I can't tell you how many people being into Subarus, right, that I've seen buy something like a WRX or an STI, and they bought a used STI off of somebody on Marketplace, and it wasn't well cared for, and so they get it, and then 6 months down the line, it's got a blown motor or something happened, and it's like, oh, it was rebuilded, but it wasn't rebuilt properly. All of these things could have happened, but now you've heard all this bullshit. You constantly hear the slandering about like, oh, head gaskets, oh this, oh rod bearing, oh all these things, right? And so now you're like, oh, well, it happened to me. Everybody said this would happen to me. I bought it. This happened to me. I should have known better. Now I got to dump a bunch of money into it, and then they get out of it, and then it just gets
like Volkswagens too, right? Like they were. I mean, God, they're fighting. They've been fighting the unreliable narrative since they had trouble in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. It's been 20 years, people. It's been 20 years.
Even more recently than that, you had Dieselgate. And people are literally like afraid of, small diesels. That Dieselgate is the reason why the F-150 and the Ram with the eco diesels and the 1500s sold like shit, because people are scared of the idea of dealing with a diesel.
Yep.
They hear diesel and they think bad because of something like Dieselgate. Well, and it's going to be 10, 15 years.
Me to my point 3. I think this is a great transition to my point 3. My problem with the automotive industry. Everything is just trends now.
Yes.
And when I say this, I want to be clear that part of this is driven by the consumer. part of
100%.
this is driven by the regulators. And so I want to focus on the regulators part because this has been a massive complaint of mine recently because it's just getting really irritating being in the industry this long and watching what's happened. And that actually will get me back to this point too. Okay. EVs, right? EVs are the trend. EVs are the massive trend. Why are EVs the trend? Well, because a bunch of regulators decided that EVs needed to be the thing. Because we're going to save the planet. We're going to save the planet. I don't really want to discuss the specifics of whether you think it's good or bad. Anybody thinks it's good or bad? I don't really care. I have not seen definitive evidence in one direction or the other that's been really particularly convincing. So I'm just going to say that right now.
Yep.
Jury's out for me.
That's a whole different episode. We'll come back to that. We'll circle back.
But EVs are the trend. So everybody's doing EVs. Everybody hopped on board and they decided to do an EV.
Yep.
And so you had all these different companies and they all did it in varying ways that were all really kind of disappointing because the technology wasn't mature enough for them yet. So you had the Volkswagen came out with the ID.4, which is a really lackluster SUV.
Yep.
And GM later to the party came out with the Blazer EV and the Equinox EV, which I haven't had a chance to drive. On paper, they're really lackluster, but I mean, I've heard good things.
Early examples, like the Nissan Leaf, that.
Oh, the Nissan Leaf was dog
That's
ass,
an abomination. But that is what early examples and like that is the Nissan Leaf, the original, early Nissan Leaf is a very good representation of just how unprepared the industry was for something like this. Because
and I mentioned like the ID.4 and the Blazer EV, and I was going to mention the Mach-E and stuff because those are the trend EVs.
Yeah, and those are good in comparison to what their predecessors were. Like a Mach-E is a fantastic. The fact that we got to there and started with something like the Leaf is impressive.
Yeah, but what I'm remembering, because I've been on the engineering side of this for a decade now, before it was EVs, right? Because Tesla, nobody really took Tesla seriously, right? So before it was EVs, it was AV, autonomous vehicle.
Yep.
Everybody thought autonomy was going to be the thing, and every automaker dumped all their money into autonomy.
Yep.
And then before it was autonomy, it was hybrids. And everybody was going to dump all their money into hybrids. Except between autonomy and hybrids, it was turbochargers. So then everybody dumped their money into turbochargers, which that one kind of stuck around. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then GM was like, hey, we're gonna do the fuel efficiency thing because we're getting all these pressures from the Obama administration. So we're going to do cylinder deactivation. And it's like I said, it's everybody is just like from a regulatory standpoint, especially everybody's just chasing the next trend on what do they think the regulators are going to do and what technology do they think is going to fill the hole.
Yeah,
and then when one starts to stand out, they go, whoop, and they're not ready.
Right.
And you get bad products.
Like we said earlier, right? Nothing in this industry happens fast, right? Like if you're going to manufacture something, it takes years. Like you have to start developing all of the supplier chain long before you start building them because you have to have those parts before you even start putting something together. So
it takes a long, long time to fill a supply chain.
Exactly. So seeing that and seeing that, they're looking at things and they're like, okay, well, we need to try and get, as close to the mark as possible. Because, making minor adjustments is a lot easier than, steering the whole ship. You're not taking the Freightliner and just, doing a 90. It doesn't work.
And
that
right
way.
now, that's what regulators are trying to do.
Yes.
Is they're trying to force the freighter to turn 90 degrees back in the other direction every other day.
Yep.
And to give people an idea of scale, right? First of all, Tesla is the fastest moving company I've ever worked with. They will do 1 year product cycle turnarounds, but their full vehicle turnaround is still like 2 to 3 years. That is the fastest I've ever seen. 2 to 3 years.
Well, and to be fair, I would say I would probably even be willing to or wager to bet that in you're seeing stuff like that because of the scale, because the scale of Tesla is not the scale of Ford, right? Like
no, and they're slowing down now.
No,
because they're getting bigger,
right?
Because their scale is approaching more like a Ford,
right? And so when you're small, right, when you're Rivian size, when you're Tesla size, you can react a lot quicker because you have way less moving parts, right? Like well, we're Rivian. We have 2 models, we are now they're expanding. There's going to be 5, but when you have 2 models to
5 models
focus
is
on.
a lot more fucking complex than 2.
Absolutely.
Clear, right? It's not 5 times more. It's not 2.5 times more complex than 2. It's like 70 times more complex than 2.
Exactly. So like when you're dealing with just 2 models, like you only, and like especially when those are sharing drivetrains or sharing, other things, like there's a lot of simplicity that comes from that, where like and that's why stuff like Rivian is able to pop off, or Tesla was able to pop off, where you're getting ahead on a lot
Yeah,
in a
and they
short period of
filled
time
a very
because you can react.
specific niche.
Right.
And they filled a very specific niche. They were like, hey, here's a target vehicle, here's a target product, we're going to go for this. Like, Rivian was brilliant
Yes.
in the fact that they said, hey, nobody is doing EVs in the adventure car segment. That was it. That's the reason Rivian won. Why did Tesla win? Because they said nobody's doing a decent EV in this segment.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean,
why
what
does
else was
Lucid do pretty well? Because Lucid said, hey, nobody is trying to make like a real luxury car
EV experience
in the EV segment. So like, because Lucid is like, it is, compare Model S and Lucid Air. Lucid Air is a better car,
right,
in a luxury segment. Just is.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. And so, well, something that's really coming to bear here, right, is the fact that like because these companies are being smaller, we're able to react faster. That kind of gives them it gives them a lot more maneuverability in the market for sure. But that is also like reflective in, because they're able to respond faster, it seems like they're more capable, right? And that's like, that has kind of propped up Tesla. That has kind of propped up Rivian. Because it's like, oh, okay, well, like I can react to these regulations and things faster. They're getting stuff done faster. It seems constantly like they're on the cutting edge, because, well, they're just a year behind, like they're like, okay, well, next year it has to be this way, so we're going to do this. And then,
but one of the things that we're encountering now is that Tesla and Rivian are both getting a little less interesting.
100%.
Because they did their thing, their hype was there, it's kind of gone. And it takes time to build.
And I think we've also reached a point where the trend in the automotive sector has been EVs, but now you have push from the current administration to kind of draw some of that back, which is kind of rough on all of these manufacturers because they've done nothing but push in that direction. And
I want to be very clear. They've pushed in the EV direction at at a cost, a severe financial cost to their bottom line. And then to add on top of it, the current administration said, I don't care about this. This whole thing you set up your whole freaking life around.
Yeah, this
your
whole thing,
freaking company around.
The ship you turn 90 degrees, you can actually turn back now.
Yeah, I don't care about that. Oh, but by the way, all those cost-cutting measures that you had to take because you're the last administration and also the rest of the world, let's be honest, the whole world, was pushing you towards. You now can't do that because you need to make stuff here because Merca. Like that's on top of it. Like, hey, by the way, I don't care about any of the I don't care about that anyway. Also, I'm going to take a massive dump in my hand. I'm going to smack you with it. Like that's the situation that like Jim Farley and
the manufacturers are faced with currently.
And it's hard to remember what the Stellantis CEO is right now.
Yeah, I also can't.
I should know.
But
I wanted to make one last point on the timescale stuff though, because I want people to understand. Like, I do this for a living. I have 3 to 4 products that I'm trying to get started production on this year. It is August 24th right now. I am charging the pipeline now to make sure that those parts get there. Yeah. Like we are starting to get things moving right now so that I can make sure I'm there for serial production on stuff that are for tires for cars that already are in the market. Yeah. This is just like a running change. This isn't all brand new, So we're talking like the designs are done. We finished design stuff. We're just like ironing out kinks now. And I'm like 4 to 6 months just to make sure parts are getting to the factory to be put on cars in time. I'm planning out that far ahead. Yeah. If somebody came to me right now and said, never mind, this tire needs a lower rolling resistance because EVs are back. and we need lower rolling resistance, I would just be like, all right, see you in 3 years. Like, because that's how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
See you in 2 years, because that's how long it's going to take, because we're just going to have to keep, like, I'm going to have to scrap the whole damn plan, and we're going to have to go back to square one, because all the regulatory certifications that I've applied for, the molds that I've ordered, by the way, it's just like, $30,000 a piece, gone, scrap metal now. All that stuff. So these things, like, you make these changes and you're wasting millions of dollars on something is just tires. Just tires.
Yep.
Not to mention, like you were talking about, like, commonization and stuff earlier. Okay, Ford runs the 2.7, right? In the F-150 and the Ranger, and I think the Bronco as well now.
Yep.
How much do you want to bet that none of those engine mounts go between the 3 cars?
Oh, I would bet all on black. Like that.
Okay.
That's.
And the Ranger runs 2 engines?
3.
3 engines. Okay, Ranger runs 3 engines. F-150 runs what, 4 or 5 now? I think 4.
I mean, if you include, like, the different variants, like, Raptor high output, the Raptor R motor, you've got 5.0.
I'm killing Raptor, so let's just say it's the 2.7, the 3.5, the 3.5 hybrid, and the V8, right?
Yes.
Those are like the main F-150.
Yeah.
Okay, so 4 motors, 3 motors on the Ranger, and then what, 1 motor in the Bronco? I think 2.7 is just the motor now. Okay, nope. So they do the 2.3 and the 2.7.
2.3 and 2.7. Well, and if we're not including Raptor, then just 2. But if you include the Raptor on that, it's 3.
Raptor. Yeah, not including Raptor. Okay, so maybe Ranger and Bronco share motor mounts. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. Because it is literally a Ranger and a Bronco are, like, based on the same platform.
Right.
So if we assume that they don't share, that means that there are at least, what is that, 8 engine mounts that you have to design for?
Plus left and right, so
mm-hmm.
because there's a good chance they might not be the same, depending on how.
Yeah, they're probably not the same. If there's 2,
yeah,
maybe there's more. Plus the transmission mount. Okay, now we have the different transmission mounts. That's additional complexity, right? So we have to do one for the auto, we have to do one for the manual.
I was going to say, in some of those chassis, like the Bronco, you have a manual and an auto, So,
so you gotta do one for both. So that's right. That's a lot of tooling.
Yeah.
Those aren't billet parts. I bet those are cast parts.
Yeah,
so that's molds. What's the output on those molds? How many of those are they making? 400,000. Okay, fine. Let's just assume the F-150. We've got 50% take rate on the 3.5 EcoBoost. So of the 400,000 that have been sold this year, they probably made 200,000 motor mounts. How many molds? How many molds do you think they can go through? Right? How many do you think they need to keep up with the regular production? Probably a couple.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely not doing all that off of one.
No, so they're running a couple molds. So if something changes just on something as simple as like a motor mount, you've got tons and tons of R&D.
Yeah. And
so chasing trends, and particularly trends that are not driven by the consumer, it's a waste of engineering. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of engineering resources, and it's driving the cost of shit up.
Yep. And
that's kind of getting to my other automotive industry thing that I really have a problem with, is everything's just too damn expensive now. I like, my main thing that kind of gets under my skin is like supercars and hypercars. I think supercars and hypercars are the most boring thing in existence. I do not like them. I would rather talk about a Navigator. I'd rather talk about a Gen 1 Explorer than I would care to talk about a Revoluto or a Ferrari, whatever the fuck it's called now. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've even talked about this a little bit. I think we talked about this a little bit when we talked about the ZR1X.
Probably.
Being that, like, the scope of these cars, right, is just like, you're touching a point where it's, I don't care about an SF90 or a Volto, because, like, realistically, who the hell has the money to shell out on something like that? I can't buy
one. I'll never be able to buy one.
Like, there are so many people in this world that could not afford to buy one of those if you gave them a mortgage on it.
Most people can barely really afford to go out and buy, like, a Blazer.
Yeah, like, the idea of spending $30,000 on a new car
which is, by the way, like, the cheapest new small crossover you can get now.
Yeah. Like,
when I say small, I mean like what used to be considered a standard small crossover, like Escape size.
Like, I think like a Trax or like an EcoSport are still like $20,000.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think they make the EcoSport anymore, which I'm not disappointed by because the
No,
EcoSport
I'm
was
not. But I'm
pretty terrible.
things
But
of that nature, right? Like you can't go buy a $17,000 Mirage. I don't think a sub $20,000 new car exists anymore.
also, the idea that you would have to spend $17,000 on a Mirage is kind of like infuriating anyway.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, congratulations. You know what? This is something I will give Chevy clout for. A Trax is 20,500 starting. A Trailblazer's 23,200. Like
It's not good,
that is,
but
they're not great cars, but for what they do,
but it is a new car for $20,000, and that does have value.
and their base features aren't that bad. Which, like, here's the thing though, right? Base features.
Yeah.
Like that is
You are not
talking
getting
on this sort of trend side. I was gonna say, talking about like sort of going back a little bit on the trend thing. There's a reason why the automakers are focusing on these base features, like and like putting tech and stuff in the car, because making something that is highly entertaining with like a really good suspension, really good to drive, a good motor that's got good high output, but that makes really good fuel economy, that is way harder than being like, I put a tablet in your interface, Bo.
And you can play games on it when you're parked.
Yes, that's easy. Plus, you know, on the regulator side of things, stuff like rear cameras being required, blind spot monitoring being required.
Well, and it makes dealing with all those much simpler, because now it's like, okay, well, now we can just deal with this on the software side of things instead of having to deal with it on the hardware side of things, because it's way easier to make software changes than it is to make hardware changes.
But you still got to pay to put the stuff in.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason why stuff's getting expensive too, because of all the base features. But yeah, it's just everything is so expensive. So it's hard to get excited about what's happening in the auto industry.
Yeah.
When I don't feel like I can reasonably afford anything I care about.
Right. And I was just about to say, like, even to elaborate this, right, is like consumers are complaining about this left and right. Like, everything is too expensive. Every aspect of life right now is too expensive. It's too expensive. And so, like, if you're feeling it when you're at the bottom end, right? You, like, the end consumer, you are at the last step of this. Shit flows uphill with that. Like,
yeah.
If your budget is tight, what do you think Ford's budget looks like? What do you think GM's budget looks like? Like, especially when
they've had to dump all this money into EVs.
Especially when you're like, oh, by the way, that pilot program you just invested billions of dollars into. Uh-huh. Yeah. By the way, fuck all of that. It's actually useless, and you didn't make a single dime on on anything that you sold off of that pilot program. You know, like I think like the number, I swear to God, the number was like 1/3, I think, of all of Ford's profits was lost by the EV division. Last year. Yeah, I want to say I can't remember the exact numbers. So but I want to say it was something like 30% of each Mach-E sale was like Ford losing money. Like buying a Mach-E was them giving you $17,000.
Yes, it was something like that. It was really nasty.
Like it cost them money to sell you that car.
And it's been this way for a really long time. Like, I don't think people realize how long it's been this way.
No, we've been creeping into this for a minute. And people don't realize how long it takes to get to the consumer.
And cheap cars have not made money for the OEMs for a long time either.
No.
I remember, obviously not divulging too much, but like Fiestas didn't really make much, if anything, when they were being sold at near the end there. And that was like kind of one of the last true like cheap cars, you know, that Ford sold. And even back when they were selling it, it wasn't making a dang thing.
And that was something that the Fiesta was offered as a fleet vehicle.
Yeah.
So like if even as a fleet vehicle, you can't make money on it, how do you make money? And there's a reason why there's a reason why the cost on this stuff does keep, incrementally going up. It keeps
going up, yeah.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, like they just keep adding shit. And like, so that gets gotten more expensive. And, they're just trying to get their bucks. And like, yes, of course, no business exists because it wants to lose money.
No,
that's
of course.
stupid.
What are they going to do? Fine. They'll sell everything at a loss and then you won't be able to buy a car. Congratulations. Welcome to Lada.
Yeah. Like it's of course that's not going to work. So be realistic.
No.
But even looking at that, right, is, well, the reason why everything has gotten expensive and why they keep trying to add all of these base features and try to do all this is because right now, Ford makes money on selling you a King Ranch. And what does a King
Yes.
Ranch have? All of the features. It's got the leather. It's got all this other stuff. And so what are they going to advertise to you? The car that they can sell, that they will make money. So when they sell you on, the marketing for a King Ranch, and like you want an F-150, there's a reason why you show up to the dealer and you look at the base model XLT 2.7 truck on the lot and you say,
And then you go buy the nicer one.
this is what I like, or this is what I need. But god damn, that Raptor looks so good. It just, like the Raptor drives so much, like the steering in the Raptor, like this drive, like this is so much better. Like the wheels on it. You look at all of those things and then you say, yeah, I can't really afford this, but you know what? Nah, I'll take that over that.
But then they run the numbers with you, right? And you're like, well, it'll be $400 a month if I get the base, or I could get the Lariat with the 3.5, and that one's going to be $520. So $120. Well, I spend $120 going out to eat. So maybe if I just don't go out to eat so much, I can afford to get the Lariat. And then you get the Lariat, and then you don't go out to, and then you keep going out to eat. But
and even with that too, right? I mean, the average loan length now is like 7-8 years. So, and the average payment is over $700. So when they, you're looking at the Raptor and they're like, I mean, I really want a Raptor, but I can't afford a $90,000 truck. We're running the numbers and like, I can't spend $1,200 a month, but you run the $60,000 King Ranch. And then you're like, well, hey, listen, actually we got a promotion, we could take your old truck on trade in. And so like with the promotion and your trade in, if we stretch this out to an 8-year loan, I can get you that. I can get you in that King Ranch for $600 a month, $700 a month.
Yeah.
And then, now you're like, well, shit, the base model, like I be $550, but like extra $150 a month. Like the other truck's so much nicer. Yeah. What? Let's do that. And so now, and this is like you said, last episode, talking about, like the average age of buying cars has gone up. The average cost of buying cars has gone up. And so you're not going to go and buy your next car and your next car be worse than the one you're currently in.
No.
So if you're leasing or you're buying a vehicle, especially, this is why a lease is 2 years or longer. Because when you get into it, right, you spend that time in it, you grow accustomed to that. I can't remember what the exact length of time is. But like you become used to, or like your habit is formed, like after like just like 90 days. So if you do the same thing every day for 90 days, that will become a part of your routine.
So, Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Uh-oh. What'd you do?
Technical difficulties. Your end froze up.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're still live for me, so
okay,
we might still be okay.
Yeah, I should just remember to cut that out. So,
that's fine.
Yeah, no, I think your end will be good. Because you still got your point out.
Yep.
But because I think it gets to the point of exactly what I was kind of going to make a story on that. So I've kind of gone up and down in terms of cars, but generally my cars have tended to get better. And what it was is the moment that it turned for me.
Yep.
Was I sold my Indy and I bought an A3. And then I was looking for a crossover because I had an Escape that was a company vehicle. I had to give it back. And so I was looking for something. I was like, well, I found this Q5 TDI for a decent deal, and I bought that. And then when we sold the Q5 and the A3 because we got families growing, so we got the van and I got the Pacifica, and it was I hated it.
Yeah.
And now
because it felt like a downgrade. And then so
I'm now in a Q7.
Right.
A newer Q7 because I wanted something that felt as good as, because nothing's going to be as good as that Q5 was unless I'm going into the German luxury side.
Yep.
But yeah, no, exactly.
But like you went to a van because you needed space. So where's your next thing? You can't go back to a Q5. So you have to move up market again. And so like,
and we tried to figure out and design, like, could we go down in size? Cause we didn't want to have to spend all the money on a Q7. And it just,
you've even already mentioned in this episode, and we've talked about it before, right? Like if you were to get the next thing that would be, kind of like the car, right? Or like the next thing to step into, a
Yeah.
navigator. Because
Yeah.
how do you go bigger and nicer than
Gotta go to a
something
navigator.
like you have to go to a navigator, you have to go to an Escalade. And you think once you get to a navigator, you're gonna stop buying navigators? No, you're probably
you
just
peek
gonna
out at the navigator and then you just keep buying them.
yeah, you're just gonna be like, okay, well, I'll just get a new navigator every few years when the newest navigator drops.
Well, and what happened for me was because I literally, like, my financial sense will not let me not do this. So I'm still somewhat financially irresponsible with my cars. I'm not gonna lie. But
to a far less degree than most people. But
to a degree where like the people that are really good influences will tell me that I'm being stupid, but like fucking I don't care.
Yeah.
I started buying used cars because I couldn't afford to go to the next thing I wanted in new, so I just started buying used.
Yeah.
You know. And like so and like I haven't, here's the thing, I have never spent more on the cars other than like one. I started buying new cars in the low 20s. I still haven't bought a car other than one that cost more than 25. That cost more than 27.
Yeah, I can't. Say
I won't spend 30 grand on a car. I will not spend 30 grand on a car. I just won't do it.
Yeah.
It's there's this mental block in my mind, like I will not do it.
Well, see, and honestly, that's a good thing though, because I'm sure like that
the mileage keeps getting higher.
Well, yeah, and that is something that I think actually I do want to cover mileage in an episode, so maybe next week or something like that. But because
we're coming up on 50 minutes, so we gotta get done here soon.
I think the point at which like for a long time I was cycling through super shitty Miatas, super shitty cars I delivered pizza in when I was doing a pizza boy back in the day.
Yeah.
So many shitty Civics and Integras and things like that, where like I was just in like these economy based cars, because that's what they are. A Civic's an economy car. It might be cool now, but it's at the end of the day,
they're not nice.
No, but it's not a nice car.
No.
But like once you start driving newer stuff,
and then once you bought that FRS,
exactly. And so like for me, right, my first like new car, and it was still used, but in 2016 I bought a 2014 FRS monogram, push button start, dual zone climate control. Heated seats, never had any of those features. And so now I have
not owned a car without heated seats in like, I swear to God, 10 years.
So I hadn't bought a car without heated seats that wasn't like an older car since the only thing that does not have heated seats that I bought in recent time that was a new car is the Tacoma.
Yeah.
And but I've specifically like been like, no, I can't live without heated seats, and now here I am without heated seats, and I'll be honest, I fucking hate it. Every day this last winter that I drove the Tacoma, I was like, dude, I should have just waited.
I should have just got the heated seats.
Well, and honestly, there's a part, because before I was going to buy this Tacoma, there was a serious I was literally talking with Josh, my friend, down in Virginia there, about like putting an order in on a Ranger Raptor. Like he was going to put the order in for me. I'd been test drive. I know I love a Ranger Raptor. We've talked about this before even, but I was right there. And the only thing that stopped me was I winced at the payment, because I looked at that and I was like, I really want to break $1,000 a month on a car payment, because that is a line I haven't crossed yet. And
my highest payment was my Pacifica, which was the most expensive car I've bought, and that was $680.
Yeah. So
and now we have two payments. One's $511 and one's $375.
Yeah, and so like
I have two cars. I still haven't broke 1,000.
Yeah, and that's pretty good. Because like I looked at that number and I was like, if I had 70 grand cash, I would not have a problem spending $70,000 cash on buying a car.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
What I do have a problem with though is like not having that and like reducing my monthly income and adding an expense at $1,000+ a month.
When you start looking at it and you're going like, I am spending rent money.
Yes.
And the longer, right, you've noticed this, I'm sure, the longer you're alive, the longer you're an adult.
Yeah.
and the higher prices climb, the more your brain calls back to what you used to do,
Yes.
what you used to spend. So
Oh,
I
100%.
remember when $25,000 was a lot of car.
So like when I first got that FRS, right,
Yeah.
I was like paying like $510 a month. And because I took the worst interest. I should not have bought that car at that time, but I was just so determined that I
Yeah.
made very bad financial choices. I'm sure if Caleb Hammer knew, he'd beat me with a stick. But I just had to have it, and I was going to do anything for it. So I just was like, okay, I'm just going to bust my ass harder, and I'll pay for it. And I did. So, but I did end up eventually refinancing it, and my payment was like $390 a month. At a later point, and like I think back now, and I'm like, wow, like I'm paying in excess of that on more than one vehicle now. And like I'm just, what am I doing?
It's so easy to let it creep.
What am I doing? Oh, it's so easy to let the lifestyle creep.
And
climb.
that's what the automakers rely on.
Yeah.
Is that we're letting that happen.
Exactly. And like it's designed
but we're reaching
to
a
do
breaking
that.
point.
But
we're reaching a breaking point.
No, and exactly. And I think that's like the point that the industry is worried about. And that's why they're doing like the hype thing where they're trying to push stuff out and they're trying to get you overly excited about this stuff. Because really what it is at the end of the day is like this is a bubble. And so if they can stay out in front of the bubble, then there's a chance the bubble doesn't pop. But that also means the bubble grows bigger behind them. So, it's like a train on tracks, speeding up behind you and you're sprinting as fast as you can. But like eventually there's a point where you are not going to outrun the train.
We either need a technological evolution that really significantly reduces the cost of cars, or we have to give up on the nannies.
Yes.
We have to give up on the nannies and let people drive stuff that sucks.
Yes. And this is where a bit of like dealing with the industry, right? Like a lot of people are going to need to look at this and say, do I need the treats? Do I need all the treats that this offers? Do I need the whole bag of kibble and all the extras? Or can I get by with just the kibble? Can you get by with just, because realistically, like you probably shouldn't be buying all the extras right now.
I think one of the things we're dealing with on the low end of cars right now is that the kibble and the extra don't actually cost that much different.
No.
At this point, because the base prices have come up to like you said earlier, I already can't afford the $20,000 car.
Yeah.
So going to 25 doesn't really feel that much worse because I already couldn't afford 20.
Yeah.
So you're just like, all right, what else can I cut out? What else am I going to cut out? Because I already got to cut stuff out. So what else can I do? Yeah. I'm already slashing. So let's just keep slashing.
If I have to cut out there, I might as well just make up for it here.
Yes. And that's like kind of where it is. And so people are reaching sort of a breaking point, I think. And if we don't let that get out of the way, the auto industry is going to hit some real hard times, at least in the US.
Yeah.
It's going to hit some hard times in Europe. South America's going to be fine. South America will be fine. China will be fine.
Yeah, I would say a lot of the Asian market.
Asian market will be fine.
A lot of those markets too, you'll see like, to some degree, like granted, there's a lot more wealth, substantially more so wealth across like the majority in the West here. To some degree.
Yeah, no, I'd say I would agree with that. Yeah.
But that to a lot of people has been blinding. And because a lot of people in those other regions are a lot more fiscally conscious. They're a lot more they're a lot more aware, because if they're not, they're going to die. Like you are not at a point where like you could just throw away money, right? So like a lot of people here, again, the people are so used to the treats, right? Like you always have a milk bone with your kibble, and so like the idea of your milk bone not being there, like you feel like you're being wronged, but it's because really what like the industry has
because really the fact that you have kibble at all is fucking crazy.
Yeah. Like
the fact that you have reliable kibble at all is something you shouldn't be taking for granted.
Yeah, and like the industry has now, like they've tossed you so many milk bones that like you feel like you have to have the milk bone. And the reality is you only need the kibble, and you
And
need.
I want to be clear. The milk bone is not just like this is probably going to be the last point because we're at time.
Yep.
But I want to make this. The milk bone is not just the screen. The milk bone is not just nav. The milk bone is not heated seats. No, the milk bone is a 5-star crash test rating.
Yep.
The milk bone is 30 miles to the gallon. The milk bone is your car starting every winter without fail.
Yeah.
Because that's what it used to be. That's what it used to mean.
Yeah. Now,
Right.
like the screen with the dual zone climate control and the start the vehicle from your phone and all that. That's the bacon bits. That's the extra.
That's not the expensive part.
Yeah. Like
the expensive part is the fact that your car fucking runs for 100,000 miles without question. The expensive part is the fact that you don't die when you get in an accident. That's the expensive part. Like, for people to realize, like, your car is that expensive because of the amount of engineering and work and materials that it takes to make something that is safe enough according to the standards that people love to scream and freak out about.
Yes.
That's what it is. So, like, that's what I'm trying. I really want people to understand, man, is stop focusing on the, like, especially car enthusiasts, man, shut the hell up about the screen.
Yeah.
Shut the hell up about the fucking push button start.
The screen's not what's going to kill your family. What's going to kill your family is the fact that, like, you're absolutely reliant on the fact that, like, oh, well, my old car is just better because there's less bullshit here. And instead of worrying about the fact that, like you said, a 5-star crash rating or things like of that nature, the dozens of engineering teams for all the different segments of that vehicle that have spent time to make sure your family doesn't turn into a fucking Campbell soup can at the end of that interaction with another vehicle.
Here's the closing anecdote. I got the closing anecdote because it's perfect. Everybody that is an enthusiast has probably seen the video going around of somebody showing that, like, the Carrera GT, right? They put it on modern Michelins. It's what like a 10 to 20-year-old car now.
Yeah.
They put it on modern Michelins, and it was like within, I think, a second or so of the current generation GT3 RS. So a 20-year-old car with modern tires is within a couple seconds of a GT3 RS. What you guys got to understand is two things. One, the amount of technology that goes into even something like a tire now, they are just so dramatically better than they used to be. And two, our cars have gotten really, really heavy because they're just a shitload safer than they used to be.
Yeah.
They're so much safer than they used to be. And I remember, it's my first experience with, like, a really old car. It was my E30. I was driving it back from California. I was going down the mountain. Right? I was going down the mountain and a deer ran out in front of me, and the first thing I thought was, this is the first time I've ever not had an airbag. I'm going to fucking die. People don't think about that.
No.
People just don't. They don't get it. They don't think about it. They don't understand it. And that's why your car is expensive.
Yes.
That is why new shit's expensive. It is not the iPad. It is not yes, that adds cost, but no, what really, really adds the cost is the fact that it's not going to kill you and the fact that it makes 30 miles a gallon.
Yep. And that's a package that realistically is unbeatable. Like, there's you can do you can make your Carrera GT almost as fast as a GT3 as that new GT3 RS, but that Carrera GT is never going to meet that new GT3 RS is safety standards. It's not going to, like, you can't just, like, make the chassis safer. Like, you can in a motorsports form, like, right, but, like, you could cage a car,
not for
right,
an everyday
but, like,
driver.
You can't cage a street car, and like that's not safer. Like, there's issues there, and I know we're gonna have plenty of enthusiasts in the comments talking about, well, that's irrelevant, I don't care about that, that's this and that. Well, one, you're probably a child, because to not care about things like that, you probably have a childlike mentality. So circle back to that comment in about 5 to 7 years when your frontal lobe finishes developing. And for the rest of the people who, actually have families that they want to keep safe, and they actually have financial, responsibilities. I know a lot of you people probably do not make the funds to have 7 miles to the gallon. So you should probably appreciate the fact that your vehicle that they like we the
Yep.
effect in the modern day, you could go buy a full size pickup truck and on freeway driving get damn near 30 miles to the gallon, because 20 years ago that was never possible. You were not
No.
getting 30 miles to the gallon in your full size pickup truck that could also tow 14,000 pounds when you need to. That could also haul your whole family. That could deal with getting groceries, and that you could put 250, 300,000 miles on for only the cost of maybe replacing some turbos or dealing with some other, stuff. You didn't have to do 3 timing belts in that. You didn't
Yeah.
lose 2 transmissions during that. So
Yep.
a lot of people take for granted all of the things that modern amenities, or all of the real modern amenities that modern cars give,
Yes.
because they think that the modern amenities are, like you said, the iPad and the dash. And like, yes, you see that and you think it's the amenity because you interact with that, but what you're not really realizing that you're paying for, and the value in the new car, is that buying that is buying safety, it's buying reliability, and it's buying economic,
Yeah.
better economic progress.
Yep. And so, like, my only doom and gloom here is that if the market continues the way that it is, either people are just going to be completely priced out of new cars, or we're going to have to bring back unsafe ones.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough money to strip.
Yeah.
Elsewhere.
And where
we're
we're
just going to have to bring back worse cars. That's just what it is.
Yeah, and I honestly, I'm curious to see where the direction goes here, because I mean, I do think that there's an administration in power currently that might not
Might allow that.
fret about actually allowing that, and I think
don't really
there's
personally quite so have much of a problem with it. I guess if it's something that's like on the window, right? Like if you're able to go to the lot and you're like, well, I can trade $5,000 for a less safe car, like I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
I don't quite have a problem with it. But I really would like to see like what actually bears out when that happens.
Yeah, well, and I'm really interested to see too, just how many people are either going to be willing to shortcut that, because a lot of people are, they think they would want to save that money until it comes down to it. When you're in the, if you were checking an option box, right, that says, do you want your vehicle to be able to survive a rollover crash, or do you want it to not be able to survive a rollover crash? If you do, it's going to be an extra $3,500. I would love to see how many people would actually check the box for that rollover, crash protection.
I'd be curious.
You'd think like this isn't. At the end of the day,
we just talked about how many people are going to be willing to we just talked about how many people are willing to go up to the Lariat,
right,
for an extra $150 a month,
and that's
it's only going to cost you $35 a month to not die in a rollover,
right, exactly. And so if you're willing to pay $100-something extra for heated and cooled seats, something tells me, since we're not dealing with Apple here, right, and it's not like, oh well, if my MacBook gets damaged, I get a new one. This is whether or not I die.
Which will be interesting to see sort of modern era, because of how family culture is dying. It's a lot easier to be reckless with yourself than it is with wife and kids.
100%.
Because I know my mindset around that has changed dramatically in the last handful of years.
Yeah, I'm sure 10 years ago. I'm sure 10 years ago you probably could have cared less if you didn't have airbags in it. By example, that E30, but you probably would. I would imagine you would probably be very hesitant to stuff your kids in the back of that and do that exact same, thing now. So
there's a reason why they drive an Audi.
Exactly.
So, all right, we're way over. I don't know that we actually made much of a point to what I was originally intending, but that's fine because I think it was good. So yeah, this has been Zero Camber. Fun as usual.
Welcome to listening to us yap. We hope to see you next time. And
yep.